Uh, Ravi, I just wanted to quickly dive into the subject itself, which because it's an interesting subject, especially when you really look at storytelling. That's becoming more and more important in the context of what we do at work, the way we learn, the way we communicate with people. I think it's fairly becoming foundational in the way we actually have to present ourselves to people, right? So, therefore, I feel that storytelling is a very critical aspect and a skill that most of us need to have. Uh, Being somebody who's completely away from the storytelling, kind of a educational background, which is you're a chartered accountant. Of course, you then went and did your MBA. Where did this interest in storytelling really happen, and any incident that you remember which triggered you to say, "Hey, this is something that I want to take up as my profession"?
No, thanks, Swami. Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's one that I get asked a lot, especially because because of the CA degree. I keep joking that hey, we all make mistakes in life, so you should not pull me for that. No, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that time and period. And um, I think one way in which that supposed contradiction for me gets resolved of what is a CA stroke MBA consultant doing as a storyteller is that I Swami, have a very wide definition of the word storytelling, right? And it's actually an interesting debate in the world of storytelling. If you get into that world, there are some practitioners who have a reasonably narrow definition of that word, saying that a story means that it has to have an incident and a time and a place and dialogue and all of that, right? So that's one variant or one version of what a story could mean. I've got kind of a very wide definition, right? And in my mind, it is any technique that you use to communicate your ideas, your data, your facts, your opinions, in order to sometimes just inform other people, engage them, convince them. And the only kind of place where I draw my line is you're doing it with data and facts, right? So there is also a whole world of storytelling with fiction. While I do sometimes go into that world and learn from it and apply lessons from it, but that's where I limit it. So to me, if somebody is making a compelling presentation with numbers and data, which a lot of CAs do, a lot of MBAs do, they are telling a good story, right? A newscaster who starts his or her bulletin, they don't say here are the top facts of the night, here are the top stories of the night. A guy like Malcolm Gladwell, who reports on the leading social science research of the day, is called a great storyteller. Someone like Bill Bryson, who writes about science in such a beautiful, striking way, is called a great storyteller. John Stewart is called a great storyteller. Harsha Bogle is called a great storyteller. Shekhar Gupta is called a great storyteller. To me, all of these are ways and means of basically using the data, facts, numbers, opinions, etc., from your field and putting it in front of an audience in an interesting way, right? And in a way that makes it clear to them, makes it clear what is happening, engages them better, and also hopefully convinces them about your point of view. So what that is one, I think, way by which I come at this skill, which is take a very wide definition of it, and in all of these techniques kind of encompass there. Now coming to incidents, I would say, um, like, yeah, there have been, it is like in many of these things, it's probably not just one thing that completely turns you, although there is one incident that does come to mind and I will share that. But I think the seeds were sown when I was 7 years old in Bombay. We used to live in a suburb called Sion, and I must have been, this has been the year 1986, and uh, that was not the time when libraries and reading was the norm, right? So it was quite rare. And my dad, I remember, took me across the road in this main road in Sion, and then there was like a little like a garage shop, and it was a library, right? And that was the first library I ever saw. And the first book I picked up was a Chacha Chaudhary book, right? And you just need to do that at some level, right? I feel that journey, once it starts, that reading journey, then you're at some level you're immersing yourself in the world of stories without even knowing it. And then as we all do, we move from Chacha Chaudhary to Tinkle and Amar Chitra Katha and Chanda Mama, and then you slowly pick up your first Janet Blyton, and then you run through all that famous fire and all of that. Then you go to Agatha Christie, then you graduate to a Sydney Sheldon and and Arthur Haley and all of that. So I did all of that till 10th. I was just immersed in the world of this fiction storytelling, and you are absorbing, right? You're learning and all of that while school and studies is happening. Um, Post that, somehow some switch got turned after 10th for me, where I realized that I'm done with fiction. It's a very weird thing, and now I hardly read fiction. I don't read fiction at all, which is, and now I realize it's a loss. I think I should read more fiction. But so non-fiction, the world is incredible, right? I got suddenly interested in history, and I got reading about various histories, or even science storytelling, like guys like Will Bryson, later guys like Yuval Harari, and so on. So I think, um, uh, invisibly or without necessarily going out to do it, I was immersing myself in the world of good stories. So that was always there. The incident that definitely I remember is, this was in 2009 or so. I'd been a consultant for about 4 years, and in consulting you're dealing with a lot of data, right? And there used to be this pride almost that, boss, I have done everything, I've looked at every possible angle, all data I have looked at, and here is proof, right? So almost always the presentations to clients used to not be so much about, here is your problem and here's how I'm solving it. It used to be that, hey, you paid me money, so please be ready to get blown away by the amount of work that I've done. And which is so counterproductive. And so clients would obviously, some of them would be too overwhelmed to react, but there were some who knew this game and who could see through it and would be like, "But I don't need all your data." And so one guy, I actually went and asked him, that his name was Abhishek. He was with a firm called India Equity Partners then. And I told him, Abhishek, what can we do, what can I do to improve my presentations, right? And so his answer was actually very planned, nothing out of the extraordinary. He just said, Ravi, you guys just end up throwing a lot of data on the slide. You need to really find the story that's there in the data and just tell me that story. And I think sometimes you need to hear a comment when you're prepared to hear it. Had I heard that comment when I was 5 years younger, I don't think it would have meant so much to me. But something just struck, maybe it's all the reading and everything, and it just hit me that, oh my god, yes, we are just overwhelming clients with data. And there was almost, it doesn't happen to, almost like a switch that turned to me after that time, that my presentations became less heavy, less data intense, and started looking for the story more clearly from then. And then, yeah, I think then from then on, it has been like building on top of that realization and learning more and more about the skill. And it's fascinating that the more I learn, the more I realize, oh shit, there's so much more to learn, so much more to, yeah. So that's kind of a long rambling answer to